What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes Show. Happy Memorial Day. Baseball list, Memorial Day. Logan's filling in for Scott. I'll tell you why in a second. But Logan, what's up?
How you doing? Hope you had a good weekend.
Well, I was going to complain that my air conditioning broke on Thursday night and has left me not only calling contractors to try and get quotes to replace central air conditioning unit that is 20-something years old, but also sweating and my entire family being cranky because it's been a hot weekend. I was going to complain about that and then found out why Scott is not joining the show today. So he took his family on a little Memorial Day weekend getaway. They rented an RV and they're staying on a horse farm. And so he texted me Friday morning his plans. And I was like, "Oh, we're never going to be able to do this podcast because how are you going to podcast from an RV?" But he's like, "No, the Wi-Fi is unbelievably strong. Like he's like it will not be a problem." So I was like, "Great, let's plan for Monday morning." He messaged all of us Sunday night saying that the RV flipped over in a crazy windstorm and he can't do the podcast anymore. And then he texted me pictures this morning. Yeah, the thing flipped over. I don't want to go into detail too much about what happened. First of all, everyone is okay, thankfully. Wouldn't be talking about this if everyone was not okay. But he texted me pictures and yeah, the thing just flipped over and they were trapped inside. Insanely scary. That is like nightmare fuel type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I know he's got Kemp, who's a young kid. Like I hope he's dealing with this okay. But yeah, that's why Scott's not on.
Yeah, that's scary. Hope everybody, thank God everybody's okay, and he'll be back next episode. I'm sure to tell everything about it that he wants to share.
Yes, that he'll be back on the after the Angels series episode. I'm in between that though. I'm talking to Andy Martino. He'll be back on the show to talk about his book, The Yankee Way. I know he's been doing a ton of different interviews, but I'm excited to talk to Andy. I always have a good time speaking with him. And I'm like 80% through the book at this point. I got to find time over the next 24, 36 hours to finish the book, but it's very, very good. Let's talk about this baseball team. 2 out of 3 from the Padres. Kind of a unfortunate meltdown, which we'll talk about on Sunday afternoon, but we got to start with Judge, who I guess, just in case anyone needed a reminder, still very good at baseball, can still hit the shit out of the ball.
Yeah, he's just, this might be the best stretch of Judge baseball we've ever seen, or close to it. You can't get much better than this. He's set, and, he's breaking all sorts of records, first player with 12 home runs or 10 doubles in a certain span or whatever. So, but he's been out of this world good. He is not missing a thing.
What was that? Yeah, what was that? It was the first player with 10 homers or 11 homers and 10 doubles in a 20-game span or something.
Yeah, I think it
those
was
stats that get very specific with the numbers in the game span.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. Like you could slice and dice numbers and time ranges to find the first of anything. But yeah, essentially 10 doubles, 10 homers in a 20-game span is pretty freaking good.
I will say when I was pulling the numbers on his last, 15 and 30 games and stuff, I went down 15 games and I put it in the doc and I said, 1.039 slugging. And then I got to the last 30 games and it said, I thought it was OPS though. And I said, 854 OPS, it's kind of low. And then I said, that's his slugging.
Yeah.
You got to add the 500 on base percentage because he's been getting on base at basically half the time for the last 30 games. To that, and then it's like, all right, well, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, the numbers are gaudy over the last 15 and over the last 30 games. As you said, his OPS over the last 15 is 1,500. His OPS over the last 30 is 1,300. That is a long stretch. It's a good sample size with hefty power numbers. Couple more home runs this weekend in San Diego. What was it? 4 games in a row that he homered, mm-hmm. I think it was. Yeah. Obviously didn't do it on Sunday, but so that was the last 2 of the previous series and then the first 2 against San Diego. And another thing I wanted to look at with Judge, though, was his leverage and clutch numbers, because the last time we talked about Judge specifically, I had mentioned his leverage numbers were not very good. And so these are creeping up, but overall for the season, they're still on the low side for all of the clutch and leverage numbers. But then this is where if Scott were here, he would say, well, that's misleading because if you hit a home run in the first inning to put you up 1-0 or 2-0, or in the third inning to put you up or break a tie or whatever, like that should be counted as high leverage. And I get that. But the numbers are what they are. Runners in scoring position, he's hitting 213, but he does have an 870 OPS. So he's getting on base, and then he's making his hits with runners in scoring position count because they're going for extra bases. 2 outs with runners in scoring position, not so hot. 130 batting average, 505 OPS. His high leverage numbers, he's hitting 200 with a 732 OPS and 2 homers. Medium leverage is 194 with an 816 OPS and 5 homers. And then low leverage, 368, 1300 OPS and 10 home runs. So he's absolutely crushing the ball in low leverage. But I think a lot of those early game home runs are lumped into those low leverage situations.
Right. And I mean, those numbers aren't good for the people who say that Judge isn't clutch. I think we're hopefully past that. But yeah, I mean, like you said, when you put your team up 1-0, 2-0 in the first inning, I mean, that's a big home run. That's, huge. I mean, that wins the game in a lot of cases, especially when you have the pitching staff that the Yankees do. So,
Yeah, exactly. You give your starting pitcher a cushion. What I'm looking up right now is, okay, so tie game. In a tie game, which could be any point in the game, it's tied. He's hitting 322 with a 468 on base, 848 slugging, 1300 OPS.
that's
And those
the
in
key.
9 home runs in tie game situations, 19 RBIs in tie game situations. That's when he's really excelling. Because like you said, tie game in the first inning or tie game coming up in the second or third inning, and he's breaking the tie. He's giving the starting pitching some cushion, which has been otherworldly. We're going to talk about that, but yeah. And I guess those spots, the tie game numbers, if it's early in the game, is just not getting counted in those leverage. I guess that's where you can have the argument, like, leverage is maybe a little misleading if it's not by the letter of the rule what leverage is defined as.
Yeah, there was a point that, and I'm sure it's still the case. I'm sure they're near the top, but the Yankees had the most first inning runs. That they were scoring the most in the first inning, which is, I mean, that helps a pitching staff more than people realize. To get ahead and to be able to, I mean, it's talked about in a lot of cliches and stuff, but it's really important. And during bad times when the Yankees were bad, even last year, it was like, all right, they weren't scoring, and then the starters, the pressure would build on them, and they I mean, you get good starts and they'd be low scoring games, and then there would be starts where it's like the starter would give up 2 runs in the second inning and it'd be like the game's over. It'd be quite the opposite.
Also, just like anecdotally watching the games, they're not having nothing innings like they had last year. Remember, they went out, they set some sort of franchise record for just not reaching base in a given inning. It was something like 40 something percent of their innings they had no one reach base. And that's just that's so detrimental to a pitching staff to just send them right back out there down 1-2-3, that even if you don't score in an inning, if you have a couple runners on base and you just extend the innings, you wear down the other pitching staff and you give your team a chance to breathe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just their lineup right now is really what we've been asking for. It's so balanced. It's got, different looks. I mean, Volpe is crushing it, stealing bases, getting on base, hitting doubles and triples and going. And then, you even have Verdugo breaking it up in the middle, who's just basically been a singles hitter, he's hit for a little bit of power, hasn't walked a ton, but it doesn't matter because he's putting the ball, he's putting the ball in play. You got Stanton now, who's basically the third piece that we were hoping he would be to Judge and Soto, hitting home runs and being a really, really productive player, hitting in the 5-hole. Nobody can complain about what he's been doing. And, I mean, as you even go down the lineup, I mean, Rizzo's been a little bit closer. He's been basically just a singles hitter, not hitting for any power, but he's hitting sixth. You're not relying on him to hit third. So, it's a lot. It doesn't matter as much.
Right. They're getting the power out of Soto, Judge, and Stanton. And Volpe even. Volpe's hitting for extra bases.
Yeah.
Like we saw, he leads off the game with a triple. And then they score him. And then later in that game against Darvish, who had a career high in scoreless innings streak. Like, he had been having an excellent season coming in. And he's obviously a huge name. They score 5. Soto homer, Judge homer, Stanton homer. And then Verdugo also got an RBI single in that spot. It's just the Yankees' ability. This is the second positive that I want to talk about. Their ability to get to quote good pitchers, like I know, however you want to categorize that. Is it the other team's ace? Is it a well-known pitcher on the other team? Whatever it is, Darvish on the Padres, Luis Castillo on the Mariners, Justin Verlander on the Astros, Corbin Burns on the Blue Jays, not Blue Jays, on the Orioles. All of those pitchers they beat in May at one point. And those are all the other. You can argue that's the other team's number one. That's the other team's
100%.
big money pitcher that they are beating. It doesn't mean they're crushing every time, but they're winning those games.
And in certain cases, they crushed Verlander. They did enough. They did it in different ways too. They wore down Castillo, where he couldn't go deep. And then Corbin Burns, he gave up 2 runs in 6 innings. That's not a bad start, but they outpitched him. So
it was Clark Schmidt that
no, it was Luis Heel.
Oh, look, so Luis Heel outpitched Burns and Castillo this month.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So he's been out of this world, and then obviously Darvish, they just crushed. Who he was on that the scoreless inning streak, his career high, and give up 3 home runs in an inning. That's what every Yankee fan dreams of.
Yeah, he the look on Darvish's face when he gave up the home run to Stanton, he kind of looked a little shell shocked.
Oh yeah, my cousin actually put a parlay in for Judge Soto Stanton to all the home runs in that game. He went to put in $15 and put in $1.05 on accident. So his parlay paid out $98 instead of $1,500. But good pull. Imagine what would the odds have been in the same inning.
Oh yeah,
I don't think you could even make that bet, but if you could, it would be.
How many times is that? This is the second time they've all homered in the same game this year, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Because I watch on MLB TV, and if anyone watches MLB TV, they play like the same 7 highlights on repeat over and over again. And one of the highlights they play is like the Michael K call of whoever hits the last home run being like, Ed Soto, Stanton, and Judge all homer in the same game.
Yeah, they do you remember they used to have, and I think they probably still do, the crazy record when Judge and Stanton both homer in a game.
Yeah,
like they didn't lose a game outside of like the Field of Dreams game or something for like a long time. Now, right. Even Judge and Soto, they literally have 3 threats. Stanton has been that level of good. That level of productive. Has he been? He's been basically to what he has been as a Yankee. He's been a 250 hitter, a 800 OPS. That is what he was in 2018. He had some better seasons, but that's kind of like what you're looking for.
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record on Stanton, except for last year, when he's been on the field, he's been good.
Right.
That's the problem, though. He's just not been on the field, and that's why I think a lot of people were giving up on Stanton, is because we saw him on the field last year and he was bad, and that led a lot of people to think like, this guy's just done.
Yeah, he had that good home run. I think it was against Castillo, or it was against the Mariners, where he took a high velocity fastball, took it to center field. That's that's as tough of a pitch, as he was having trouble with last year, and he was able to turn it around, drive it. He still hits the ball as hard as anybody. So, he's not done.
No, he's obviously not done. And yeah, he's been the 3rd guy, even though he's been hitting 5th. I wonder if they move him up to the cleanup spot.
I don't think they will.
No,
because I think that as Boone has always, it's just now he has good lefties to put there, values that breaking up. We're not putting Willie Calhoun there right now because we don't have to, but we're putting Verdugo, we're putting Rizzo, we have Soto. He likes, I could hear him saying it, 2, 4, 6, he's going to put those 3 guys just because he's got 3 of them. And then he's going to have, he's got the Wells and the Oswaldo and whoever else at the end of the lineup. It's so balanced. It's exactly what, when was the last time they had a lineup this balanced? They used to rock with 1, maybe 2 lefties. Like
09?
Oh, right. But it's important. We've been calling for it. And not to, we've talked enough about Brian Cashman, but it's like, he said, I need 2 lefty outfielders. He needs, more lefties. He's got Rizzo. He went and got 3 lefty outfielders. We got Wells, which, Wells has been not really hitting, but he's still he's hitting 8th. him and Trevino as a combination have been plenty good.
Yep. Now, your point about the lineup being more balanced than it's been, call it in the Aaron Boone era, is absolutely right. And when and if Dominguez comes back, it's like he's another guy you could plug in that cleanup spot if you're
Right.
not worried about putting too much immense pressure on him when he comes back. That he can hit, obviously switch, but lefty in that cleanup spot if you need him to.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously he's been crushing it. They moved him to Double A. I mean, he's gonna probably just get optioned, and he's just gonna wait down there for a while. He hasn't played the field yet, so he's still got a little bit of a way to go. But I mean, that's good. I mean, God forbid something happened to Stanton. I mean, they would call him up real quick and just plug him into the DH and just let him wait. I mean, they do have depth that they haven't had in the past.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about the Yankees starting pitching because we have to. But first, having that go-to pair of jeans is so important. A pair of jeans that fits perfectly and are comfortable. My go-to jeans are Doer. My closet just feels incomplete when my Doer jeans are in the wash. There are so many great things about these jeans, but my favorite is the comfort. They don't have that harsh denim feel that some jeans can have, especially when they do come out of the wash. They feel and fit just like they did before they went in. You can easily travel in these jeans or wear them to work, and you will look good while doing so. Doer's denim features 360-degree stretch. It is made from technical fibers designed to keep you cool and dry, and it is sustainable, made with plant-based materials. See for yourself why Doer is the most wanted denim. I know you will love these jeans. Check them out in their Doer's flagship stores in LA or Denver, or you can shop online at shopdoer.com/Bronx. Right now, our listeners get 20% off site-wide when you use the exclusive URL shopdoer.com/Bronx. That is spelled DUER. This can make an amazing gift for Father's Day coming up in June. Do not miss this deal, 20% off at shopdoer.com/Bronx. The starting pitching, I had said, hey, we got to pull May 2022 numbers because that's the last time I remember the starting pitching as a unit just being so dominant. And they've actually, in a lot of cases, been even better than that. So let's go back to May of 2022. In a 28-game stretch, they pitched 162 and 2/3 innings at 6 innings per start. Out of those 28 games, 15 were quality starts. 2.83 ERA, 3.11 FIP, 131 hits allowed to a 2.07 batting average. They were striking out 9 per 9 innings and walking only 1.7, and total produced 4 WAR. Now, the pitchers were Gerrit Cole, Jameson Taillon, Nestor Cortez, Jordan Montgomery, and Luis Severino. They were all on fire in that month. They went as a team 19-9, and they had a plus 40 run differential. Unbelievable. Compare that to so far in May. We got a couple days left to go in May, but they've pitched 24 games, 142 and 2/3, also 6 innings per start. Already more quality starts, 16 out of the 24. 1.96 ERA. They've got a sub-2 ERA for a 24-game stretch as a starting pitching group. That's crazy. 348 FIP, so that's a bit higher than it was in May. Mainly because the walks are up, 2.65 walks per 9 innings versus 1.7 2 years ago. They're striking out virtually the same amount, 8.96, which is basically 9, only allowing 95 hits and a 185 batting. No one is hitting them. They're not giving up hits. It's crazy. 2.7 WAR produced. Obviously, Nestor, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, Luis Gil, Clark Schmidt. The big name out there is Gerrit Cole. But the funny thing about that May 22 is that Cole was actually like the worst starting pitcher that month. Not that he was bad, but out of the guys, he was going the worst at that point, which was what made it even more remarkable. And then they're 18-6 this month with a plus 53 run differential. It's legitimately hard to lose games when your starting pitching is this good.
Yeah, and it's actually even more important now because the bullpen has been so taxed. I mean, you see even, in Sunday's game that the bullpen, it doesn't have a lot of depth right now. So it's so important, and it's the reason that it is the reason that they're winning games. I mean, Carlos Rodon has been himself in his last, he's pitched over 6 innings in his last 4, 6 out of his last 7. Like he's been, he's been so good in his last 7 games. Got a 2.61 ERA. I mean, that's as good as we thought we were signing a guy for. He's pitching length. He's getting into the 6th and 7th inning. Then you have like you needed him and Stroman and Cortez to kind of be rocks because you had these unknowns in Clark and Heel, and Clark and Heel might have be the two best pitchers. It's like that's
Heel's been the most electric pitcher. And
he's
I
also been the
know,
most effective. Like,
yeah, he's been the most. Has he this month been the most effective?
let's see, I think so. But
The only reason I'm questioning that is because I know his start against Milwaukee came in May, and I know that I believe that start maybe that was end of April though. Maybe that was end of April. The Milwaukee and the Toronto starts; those were like his two worst starts of the season.
oh my god, that's crazy. So in May, he's 5-0 with an 0.59 ERA.
0.59 ERA.
Yeah,
So what's he given
been,
up? Like 3 runs total this month?
He has given up 2 runs in 30 2/3 innings, only 12 hits and 10 walks. So he's got a 0.717 whip.
That's 12 hits in 30 innings is laughably good.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is that he's at 55 innings for the season. He's only thrown 88 in the majors in his entire career.
Yep.
I think we looked it up. I think he's got an 80 inning season, a 90 inning season somewhere in the minors.
It was like 95 innings or 96 innings in the minors.
But it was in like 2019.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yep. He's going to blow past that by end of June.
I don't think they're going to care. I think they're just going to go. If he's going to pitch like this, I think they're just going to keep going. And they said all these different things. They have, this, information that they can, instead of putting an innings limit, they could watch and see how he's, being, how his mechanics are and everything. And if he's tired, they're just going to use that and let him go.
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If they shut him down, people are screaming, why are you shutting this guy down? He's the best pitcher on the team. He's the most effective. Why are you messing with the kid? If they don't shut him down and he gets injured, it's why didn't you manage his innings, you morons?
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, if they put him in the bullpen, then they're, like you said, they're messing with him too in the same way. I think they're going to have to, let him go. And then maybe, like, the right way to do it, I think, is like if you can give him an extra few days, skip him a start, something like that. Like that's probably the
So you're talking about a 6-man rotation?
I'm not talking about a 6-man rotation in totality. I'm just talking about like, for instance, if Cole comes back, don't send him to the bullpen right away. Skip him a start. Let everybody else go again, and
that buys you a couple weeks.
Creative things. Well, but if they do that and they add some stuff up, they give them a few days here and there, then it's hard though because you never know with these pitchers. They're creatures of habit. They don't want to pitch once every 8 days. You know what I mean?
Do you remember how shaky he looked when he had that extra rest?
Yeah. So it's tough. You kind of just let him go.
Well. So that, like we talk about this every episode, then you got to pick the guy to come out of the rotation when Cole returns. And so if you're not going to mess with Heel and you're not going to mess with Schmidt, which I'm in favor of not messing with either of those guys, it's got to be Nestor Cortes. If you say, well, Nestor Cortes has been pretty good, especially at home, and he's more veteran than those other guys, and you can I don't know, you want to keep 2 lefties in the rotation. I don't know, whatever argument you want to say, like, oh, we got to like having 2 out of the 5 be lefties, blah, blah, blah. Then if you move Heel to the bullpen, we were talking about this before we were recording. What role does he take in that bullpen? Because I don't see him being a short inning reliever, because that is the complete opposite of being a starting pitcher as far as arm fatigue and arm workload. So you're not going to get him up and down every single day. Right. So he's going to be a twice a week pitcher going 35, 45 pitches whenever they can get him in there. But then what if you don't have opportunities to get him in there?
Right. And then, so if you do it with Nestor, I mean, I think you kind of allow yourself to, he's going to be in a similar role though. No, you're not going to put Nestor in a short inning role. You're going to do the same thing with Nestor. And Nestor has shown that he could be effective at that, but it's hard because it's hard to make this decision now because things can change a lot in a month, as we know. Sure. I mean, he's got, an 0.5, whatever I just said in this month, and he had like a close to a 4 in,
right. If he's got a 4.59 ERA in June, then it's like, then you take him out.
Right. So, but Nestor could do it. I mean, Nestor, he pitched, his last start was 5 innings. He had 3 walks, but like, he's been like, it feels worse than it is kind of thing. You watch Nestor and you're like, he hasn't been himself. And then it's like, oh, you look down, he's got a 3.29 ERA. Like, it's really good.
He's been overall effective. This is going to sound shitty though. I don't care about messing with Nestor Cortez as much as I care about messing with Luis Gil. That's not to say I want to mess with Nestor Cortez, but I just feel like it's less risky. Like I'm not worried about Nestor Cortez just being like, yeah, give me the ball in the 4th inning. I don't care. Give me the ball in the 7th inning. I don't care.
Yeah, and he would do it in a heartbeat. And then, I mean, to continue about the rotation, I mean, obviously you're not going to touch Stroman, who had another good start. I mean, his ERA is down to, I think it's 2.76 right now. He's been outside of a few rocky starts.
You see that bear hug he gave Boone coming out of the game?
No, I didn't.
So usually when a guy comes out of the game, Boone give him a pat on the ass or whatever, and they run down the tunnel. He gave like a man hug. They had like a bro hug on the top step of the dugout.
Yeah, he did you see what he tweeted after they lost? So after Stroman tweeted after they lost the game in Seattle that Holmes blew, he pitched 7 1/3. Seattle, that was the game. That was like his best start probably. He tweeted like, kind of like baseball happens, and he would run through a brick wall for Boone, and like obviously Boone didn't do anything wrong in that game. But like he was saying how
closer to close out a game. It's like...
No, yeah, he was like, all right, I'll it was like a praising the team and Boone, and
yeah,
it was cool.
Well, there's nothing worse than a pitcher showing up his teammates, whether it's a fielder who makes a bad play or a relief pitcher who comes in and blows something. Like, you're going to lose the clubhouse real quickly if he went to Twitter and said, I should have, this is bullshit, or whatever. He said anything,
but he could
negative,
say nothing.
Nothing would be fine as well. Sure, yeah, right. No, he's saying and doing the right things, and he's pitching well.
Well, he had 6 more shutout innings. His last 3 have been really good. I mean, he had 6 shutout against Minnesota. He had 7 1/3 of 1 run against Seattle, and now he has 6 shutouts against San Diego. Like, I mean, that's again. I mean, this is a guy like we would have been asking from whoever our best pitcher was. I mean, outside of Cole, it's like he's just stable. Like stability. Like that's what we've been asking for, and they all feed off of each other.
Here's a fun game. I'm a little sad Scott's not here to play this game with me. Let's just imagine the Yankees are starting a American League Division Series tomorrow. Who are the 4 pitchers you're going with, and in what order?
So if it was starting tomorrow, I think we can assume that Nestor would be the odd man out.
Okay.
Maybe Clark, right?
Well, I mean, Nestor Cortez, what you're going to have a home game. Nestor Cortez has been literally unhittable at Yankee Stadium.
But I think what I would do is games 1 and 2. Well, I think at game 1 is probably Stroman. Because I think that I think with no Cole, I think he is the most stable. I think he is the most consistent. Like, I think Rodon, I mean, they've been like virtually the same, but I'm just a little bit more comfortable.
You don't trust him as much.
I don't trust him as much.
Who do you want coming back for a potential game 5 winner take all?
Stroman.
That's right. That is as much of a question about who do you trust most in game 1 as who do you trust most in game 5.
I also am confident. Like, I don't think Stroman would go out there and like lay an egg.
Suck.
Like,
he's not going to suck.
Like Rodon would go out there and like there's a world where he gives up 7 runs still, and he's done it.
He doesn't make it out of the second inning, and you're down 5-0.
But I think I would go Stroman, and I think I would give Rodon game 2.
So you're going heel on the road.
I think I would go heel on the road, but I think you could flip those 2.
Heel,
but
2,
I think
Rodon 3, and then Cortez 4.
Well, Schmidt 4.
So no Cortez. Oh, you said Cortez is the odd man out.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? You think it would be Schmidt, because I think it'd be one of those 2.
Yeah, I mean, Clark Schmidt's last 2 games, you can argue he's looked worse. He's not been bad by any means, but he's looked worse. If Glaber doesn't make the error, we're going to talk about the Glaber error in that meltdown. But if Glaber doesn't make that error, who knows? Maybe that game looks differently on Sunday.
Yeah, he's been so good too. It's hard to say that you wouldn't want him starting a playoff game. I mean, I think I'd still be a little bit more confident with Nestor, but also I think Nestor would be like. Nestor coming out of the bullpen gets me excited. Like, I think that could be effective. Schmidt, like, I know he's done it, but like,
what situations is Nestor coming out of the bullpen though? Because like when
piggyback.
A piggyback, meaning like your starter can only get through 4 innings. So now
No, I'm saying like the way that, like, I guess like almost like how they used like King at his peak, or like the way the Astros used, like if it was the playoffs, the way the Astros used their starters, where it was like, give me 6 and like the starter will get you the next 3.
yeah, like how the Nationals won their championship
Right.
in 2019.
Like Nestor could go out there and like
But
7, 8,
Nestor
9. And,
Cortez isn't Strasburg coming out with 98-mile-an-hour gas.
no, but I mean the Astros did that with like no names and like
McCullers throwing 77
right,
curveballs in a row.
right, and Charlie Morton coming out and doing the
Charlie
same
Morton's
thing.
not a no name.
No, but at the time it was like, who's this guy? I remember in 2017, like, I mean, he wasn't, it was before they were
Yeah.
full sticky stuff.
I mean, the only risky part with saying, oh, Nestor's going to be our secret weapon, or any starting pitcher is going to be our secret weapon out of the bullpen in the playoffs, is that's the first time they're doing that.
Well, also, Nestor and Schmidt have both done it. Like, I mean, remember when they brought Schmidt into that game in Cleveland a couple years ago to close out the game?
Yeah.
It's just, you know what? There's probably not a wrong answer. And the way they would probably do it, if I had to guess, was they'd say the first 2, they'd say, all right, it's going to be Stroman and Rodon, and then or the first 3, and then they'd say, oh, we don't know who the game 4 starter is. They would make them both available.
Depending on if you're up 2-1 or down 2-1.
Right, and they'd make these pitchers available in the other games, and they'd make Schmidt and Cortez both available, in a game 3 if they're down. Like, you know what I mean?
I think what I would do is I like your thought on Stroman being stable and also trusting him in a potential game 5. So I'm okay with starting him in game 1. I really like Nestor Cortez at home though, and he's pitched playoff games for them before.
So you'd go him game 2?
I think I would go him game 2. I'd probably go Rodon game 3 and Heel game 4, and Clark Schmidt's the odd man out. And that's not really a knock on Clark Schmidt. It's just like the other guys have been so good right now.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I get the idea of Cortez at home, and you're also comfortable with him.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, after talking about it, I'd probably go Cortez over Schmidt. But I mean, Schmidt has like been just as, he's been the second best pitcher this month, outside of Heel. So it's hard to say.
It's a classic good problem to have, Logan.
Right, as Michael K would say.
The other crazy thing about this run the Yankees starting pitchers have been on are the league offensive stats this month of May. Are 268 batting average, 333 on base, 482 slugging, 815 OPS, 132 WRC plus. As a league, the league is hitting a 132 WRC plus. Like, saying it out loud, I still don't believe it. That's how good those numbers are as a league to be that strong offensively. And the Yankees are producing those starting pitching numbers when offense, at least around the league in this month, has been good.
Right.
And if you compare that to 2022 May, it's a 104 WRC plus, which is, a hair better than league average. Pretty amazing, to be honest. This run of Yankees pitching that we've seen. The Yankees are going to be heading to Anaheim this week, and if you are looking for tickets, make sure to use the Game Time app. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, meaning buying tickets to a baseball game on Game Time is faster and easier than ever. The Game Time app has a ton of great features. My personal favorites are the flash deals, so you can see what sections the best deals are in. The all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkouts. You can see what the price is going to be right from the seat view selection. And then also the seat views, you can see the real pictures from inside the stadium. Like I've said a million times, if you're going to a new park, you can see what you're going to get before you buy. The app is also very streamlined and easy to use, just a really good user experience. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets to sporting events, but you can also find tickets for concerts, comedy shows, theater, and much more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less money, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create a account and redeem code BRONX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you, Game Time. Some negatives from the series. We touched on the 6th inning meltdown, but Gleyber Torres' error kicked it off. This isn't going to be a shit all over Gleyber Torres segment. That's going to be the number 2 negative. So don't worry, it's coming. But then Schmidt walked Manny Machado, and he was replaced by Victor Gonzalez. Do you think Victor Gonzalez stayed in the game too long? Like he's out there for 5 batters and the game is just slipping away slowly. It's not like he gave up a 3-run home run immediately and the game is gone in the blink of an eye. It's like, and I know it's not like he got like there was a bunt that Rizzo could probably field and he got a ground ball, which I know Michael K said, can they turn 2? They're probably not turning 2 on that. That's going to be a hard play to turn 2 on. But at the very least, Victor Gonzalez was late covering the bag. So it's not like he was just giving up doubles and triples and home runs all over the park. But he's out there for 5 batters. So it's longer than the 3-batter minimum rule. San Diego's pinch hitting right-handed hitters against him. And you can just see that game slipping through the Yankees' fingers. And he's just out there to dry.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, maybe you pull him a batter earlier, but, it's not like you have a ton of flexibility there. And it's like, well, who are you bringing in? That's the question of, who's available, who's around, I mean, I'm sure they probably would have used Canely if they were up. Like if I had to Canely pitched on Friday, right?
It's bullshit. Like why are they so opposed to, it's a 1-1 game or I'm down 2-1. Can't use Canely, but use him if it's up 1-0. Like the game is still there. Like trust your offense to come back of a 1-run game.
I probably what they probably were going to say is they probably wouldn't want to use Canely in the middle of an inning, right? I'm trying to talk Boone. So they probably are going to say, all right, well, ideally I like this lane for Gonzalez. There's some lefties here. And then if they stay up, they're going to go to Canely for the next inning, right? Because Canely's available. Who's available? Canely's available,
Yeah.
Weaver's not.
No, Weaver threw a ton of pitches. Yep.
The day before. So,
and then
Dennis Santana.
Dennis Santana came in. That's right. And you're not replacing. Yeah, no, it's probably Canely. But once they are pinch hitting the righties against Gonzalez, maybe at that point you make the pull.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, he has been pretty effective, especially against lefties. And then you have Ferguson, who they go to the next inning and gave up a run of himself, who's been bad.
No,
so
Ferguson's not the answer.
Right. So talk yourself through it. I mean, who really is the option? The bullpen is thin. Like, that's the problem. It's the 6th inning. It's not the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have pulled him a batter or two earlier. Like, obviously, I agree that the game was slipping away, but it's like you do have to. It's not like this is the bullpen of David Robertson, Ottavino, Zach, like where it's like, all right,
you don't have the luxury of
closer. Like,
you don't have the luxury of bringing in a weapon in the 6th inning. You're basically rolling the dice with guys in the 6th inning. But like to your point, Canely's there available. At what point are they going to use him in the middle of an inning? And I know you're not saying that was actually the reason, but Monday's an off day, so he's not. No one's pitching on Monday.
I'm shocked they didn't use him yesterday. I bet you he would have pitched the 7th
if they're up 8th. Or tied.
Right. So if I know how they think with Canely when they like his changeup against lefties. So why he couldn't have came in that spot to get the lefties out? My guess would be they either didn't want him to start an inning, or they were going to say he's our 8th inning guy today, because who else would be that?
Yeah.
It's just too early to bring in a weapon of that. Obviously they were in trouble. What was it when Schmidt came out first and second? Nobody out
because he walked Machado and then got pulled.
So it's like, they need somebody, like they probably liked the lefties against. They ended up pinch hitting righties, and he kind of got, blooped around. And then they went to Dennis Santana to get out of it, which he did. It's just thin. It's super thin out there. They need an arm or two. Like they just, it's a problem.
Yeah, but also a problem with looking at it the way of, Canely's going to lock down the 7th or the 8th inning, is sometimes the 6th inning is more important than the 8th inning.
Right. I mean, it's just, I agree with you. It's just, there's, it's the 6th inning, and how did it go? It was Machado,
and then they pinch hit Donovan Solano
for Peralta.
Yeah, and then they tied the game on that fielder's choice.
And then they have
the bunt, which
Merrill, who's a lefty, right?
Yeah, they pinch hit another righty to bunt, right? Wasn't that they bunted?
No, it was I don't know who bunted. Let's see, because it was Solano pinch hit and walked, and then after Machado had walked, and then Merrill, who was a lefty, he might have bunted.
No, Merrill grounded into that force out that was to Rizzo.
And then you have
The bunt.
Ha-Sung Kim bunted. He's a righty though, but
He's
he
a
was in the
righty,
lineup.
and
He
he
wasn't
bunts.
pinch hitter.
Rizzo, how do you not make that play, Rizzo? Like he tries to barehand it. It was a hard bunt, and he was barehanding it because he was charging in. It was to his barehand side. But Rizzo, like that, that runner is dead at the plate. He's out by 2 full steps if you make that play.
Right. Well, that's the problem. So basically, it's Solano pinch hit for a lefty, right? So they were bringing Gonzalez in for David Peralta and Jackson Merrill, who were back-to-back lefties, and then Ha-Sung Kim, who ended up bunting. So the second guess would be they left him in, but then what they would say is that they hit Campusano for Higgy, but that's a righty for a righty.
Righty for
so they know that's a righty.
Better hitter.
And then they got Arias there, who's another lefty. So Boone is saying, I'm going to try and attack. I got 3 lefties here in the span of 5 or 6 batters. One ended up getting pinch hit for. So now my second guess would only be, all right, well, once it gets to the catcher, I might trade because Luis Arias doesn't matter. Like, really, think about it. Doesn't matter lefty or righty.
No.
Like,
and you're in that point, you're already down at that point. Once Arias.
Yeah, you're down 2-1. He ends up making it 3-1, and then they pulled him.
Right.
They pulled him for a righty, and then Tatis gives up, gets a single off of Dennis Santana that scores another one. They're not good options. None of them are great options. That's the problem.
Yeah, you're right. It's just frustrating. It's just the way that the inning went down, where Gleyber makes the error and Rizzo can't handle the bunt. And the number 2 negative is Gleyber Torres. It just continues to be, in my opinion, a problem. Kierr allowed for the comeback. He also picked off earlier in the game. And I know last 15 games offensively, he's been pretty good. 278 batting average, 322 on base, 841 OPS. Basically, like last 15 games, he's been the offensive player he was last year. Like that's the type of offensive player he was last year, which is good. And I know this is not going to happen. DJ's being activated on Tuesday in Anaheim. I know Gleyber's not going to sit, especially because now Birdie is down.
And Oswaldo has not been really hitting at all.
Oswaldo's not been good. But in a world in which they have more healthy bodies in the infield, and Gleyber has been okay at best, then do you want DJ playing over Gleyber? Like, that's a fair question.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, obviously right now the options aren't great, but I mean, I wouldn't be. The thing is that Gleyber's been better than the other options. I mean, better than Birdie has been, better than Oswaldo has been anyway. Like, obviously, if it came to that, I'd say okay, but right now you're going to have Gleyber literally batting 8th or 9th, right? Because you're going to have DJ batting 7th.
DJ's probably going to hit 7th, and then you'll have the catcher. If
and
it's
Gleyber.
Wells, probably hit 8th, and then Gleyber 9th, maybe.
Right, yeah. So that's I'll take my chance at Gleyber, and his numbers hitting in the 9 hole. Like,
didn't he hit leadoff to start the year?
Yeah, and they would say, you know that when
double
DJ comes
leadoff
back, it's going to be double leadoff, and that he's going to work the count, which is fine. Like, if that, you know what I mean? Like, and then if it's Trevino, maybe you go Gleyber 8. He's been solid offensively. He's always going to have his moments in the field, and
they just always seem to come at the best times, don't they?
Yeah, they do always come at pretty big moments. It's not like he makes a ton of errors. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's actually the more frustrating thing.
Yeah.
He's not a terrible defensive player.
Especially at second base. Like, he's a fine second baseman. It's just he has these brain lapses of like, oh, and then it's like, oh, it's like deflating. It's always deflating. But like, any brain error from any player in a big moment's deflating. It just happens more often than it should with Gleyber.
And that brings us to the number 3 thing. Birdie down. He's going to be out, quote, a while, diagnosed with a high-grade calf strain. DJ's coming back, so that sort of swaps some depth there. But I still think the Yankees' infield depth is a little lacking, especially backing up first base. Rizzo, last 15 games, has been hitting .211 with a .228 slugging percentage and only a .258 on-base percentage. No home runs, only 2 walks. The Yankees don't have a backup first baseman. The backup first baseman is DJ LeMahieu, but DJ LeMahieu is going to be the starting third baseman. So if you want to give Rizzo a day off, you put DJ at first base and you put Oswaldo at third base on those days. So they still don't really have a backup first baseman.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said before, though, with Rizzo. I mean, Rizzo typically is a good defender. We've seen a little bit more shakiness, but you're comfortable with him at first. He's hitting sixth. He's had some key hits. He's been a little bit streaky this year. He started kind of okay, and then he kind of got cold, and then he had a really good few weeks. And now lately he's been, back to, I mean, he's hitting 211, but he's hitting for absolutely no power. He's not getting on base. So, he's gonna go in waves, but he's hitting sixth. He doesn't have to be relied upon to hit behind Judge. So it's a little, you have a little bit more breathing room with that.
I mean, it's becoming glaringly obvious this is probably the last year of Rizzo.
Yeah, I wonder what they do. I mean, they should start getting Spencer Jones some first base reps down there. That's what they really should do, but only half kidding. But that would kind of work. Yeah, like I don't know what they're gonna do because they don't have anybody. I mean, there's the guy that Scott likes. Is it Ben Rice? Is that he's a first baseman? But like, if they want to sign Soto, like you're gonna need some internal options. Are they really gonna want to go out and spend money on first base?
No, but
probably not.
But if you're gonna basically be getting just good defense at first base with no power like that, you don't need to spend $17 million to get that.
No, of course not. I don't think it's going to be Rizzo. I'm just saying I don't think that they should. I mean, they could say we're going to put DJ there, and they can put, internal options around the infield.
That's probably, well, I mean, depends what they do at second base.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need. You can't just sign Soto and put your hands up in the offseason. There's too many holes.
Let's worry about the offseason in a couple months. Another, call it positive from the series. Volpe continues his hot hitting, 19-game hitting streak. In that time, hitting 333, 375, 918 OPS. What's that weird stat for him? Joins Joe DiMaggio and Derek Jeter as the longest or youngest. I think it was youngest Yankees to have that long of a hitting streak was the stat.
Yeah, I think it was something like that, like over 19-game hitting streak. Yeah, it's a long one. That's good.
Do people of your generation care about hitting streaks, game hitting streaks?
It's cool. I mean, when it gets up here, like when it gets up to 20, it's like, all right, that that's kind of cool. But like, it's like not
20.
Really.
I don't know. 20. I feel like 20 happens probably in baseball pretty frequently. I think once it
does,
reaches,
not on your team though.
No. I'm not saying on your team, just around baseball. And it's like we don't hear about everybody that hits a 20-game hitting streak. I think once a guy reaches 30, it might start to be talked about more around baseball, because you're more than halfway to Joe. No one's reaching Joe. 56 games is ridiculous.
But remember when Arias? I think it was Arias did like he was over 30. I remember being pretty interested in that. I don't remember what year. That was. I don't
remember Arias doing that. For whatever reason, Jimmy Rollins sticks out in my mind. Jimmy Rollins did like high 30s one year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, I enjoy seeing more that he's hitting 333 and he's got a 918 OPS over his last 19 games.
Yeah.
Like that, hitting streak is, I mean, you could hit one single a day. I mean, this hitting streak started, the first 10 games of it was like super under the radar because he was going like
1 for 4
with a walk, and it was like, all right.
Yeah. Do you think that Anthony Volpe uses the same helmet guy as Eduardo Nunez?
Yeah, and he's not even, I mean, you hear Boone talk about it, he's not even like an exceptionally fast runner. He's just a good base runner, and the helmet always flies off.
It must be how he bounces or something, or like how he holds his head, because he kind of holds his chin up when he's running.
I think that's what it is.
And so it just like flops, so it catches some wind and it flops off. Not very aerodynamic.
No, not at all.
If you gotta keep your head down, that's more aerodynamic. Yeah. Keep your head down. He might need to wear a chin strap so the thing doesn't fly off.
Oh God, yeah, no, please don't do that.
Every time he runs hard, it falls off. Like every time.
So funny. It's so funny.
And it's like with the helmets, with the new technology where they have like the better for like concussion proof helmets. They're like just bigger and a little goofier looking. So it's just like it looks extra funny when it's flopping off. Mm-hmm. Boone said that Volpe will continue to be leadoff once DJ comes back, which is the right decision.
Agree.
Anything else you want to touch on from the Padres series?
No, I mean, you go on the road, win 2 out of 3. You take that. I think the Yankees are 19 and 10 on the road this year, so you can't ask for much better than that.
That's what I know it was 3 straight sellouts in San Diego. Seemed to be a good amount of Yankee fans there.
Yeah, I think so. They actually said that I think it was the record for like a 3-game regular season series in San Diego.
In San Diego history.
Yeah, I think so.
Anaheim is going to be 70% Yankee fans.
At least.
Do you
Anaheim
remember?
Is so bad.
they have the worst record in baseball since like the middle of April or something like that. Trout is out. It's just they don't have Ohtani anymore. Like irrelevant.
Anthony Rendon
irrelevant
is
franchise.
Like, so irrelevant. It's so sad.
Do you remember when Didi got off to the unbelievable hot streak in, was that 2018 or 2019? I forget what year that was.
2018. Yeah, 2019 he had time.
And the Yankees played like a early season series in Anaheim. And I think it was a Sunday night baseball game. Didi hit like a massive like 3-run home run or something. And there was like a shot of him hitting the 3-run home run, and behind him is like only Yankees fans and like one Anaheim fan. Like, what the fuck is going on? I'm being bombarded right now.
Well, usually like now Anaheim's still like good, like not good, but like, oh, you know, they're 25-25. They're like, maybe
at least the last couple of years you were like kind of juiced up for an Anaheim game because you got to see Trout and Ohtani.
Yeah, there's nothing there right now.
No, it's not a good time to be an Angels fan. Although I still feel like they always used to give the Yankees problems back in like the 2000s. Obviously, they beat them in the early 2000s and in the playoffs and stuff like that. So I don't know. I still have like a weird thing with Anaheim. Whether you're a world-class athlete or podcaster like us, we understand the importance of mental and physical well-being. For proper recovery and top-notch performance, and Unified Healing is sponsoring the Bronx Pinstripes show, which is makes us very excited. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you have not heard of the EE System, then listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. If you're in the New York City area or hundreds of other locations around the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. If you are interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself, then go to unifiedhealing.com/Bronx to learn more and find a center near you. It is spelled UNIFYD healing.com/Bronx. No material or testimonial on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System. We mentioned the Angels stink. They are 20-33. They're 500 over the last 10 games, tied for the second worst record in the American League. And they, like I said, worst record in MLB since the middle of April. I think I said this last episode, but like the NL West just has overall been worse than we thought. And the AL West has been worse than we thought going into the season. AL Central better than we thought going into the season.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Astros out there that are just still kind of reeling. And then, although they've been playing, I think, a little bit better recently. And then Texas has been definitely disappointing. Like Seattle leads that division 28-26. Like, yeah, that's not what you'd expect.
And I think as when the Yankees were playing Seattle, I had noticed everyone has a negative run differential in that division.
That is pretty true. Crazy. What's also crazy now that I'm looking at that is that the Angels are worse than the Athletics. So,
and the Athletics were, I think, going into the year, like the unanimous choice for worst team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, they have the same amount of losses, but Athletics have 2 more wins, so we'll go with that.
The Angels offense ranks 15th with a WRC plus. They're basically league average, near the bottom in walks. They are 5th with 63 home runs, but their pitching is god awful. 27th in ERA, 28th in FIP, 24th in walks per 9 innings. The Yankees should score a boatload of runs this series.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, they're going up against 2 out of 3 pitchers that have been bad with over 5 ERAs.
Yep.
They can't, I mean, I don't know who is even in this lineup. I mean, is Anthony Rendon still playing? No, I would say no, he's not. So, I mean, if you look at this lineup, I couldn't tell you anybody. Kevin Pillar is back. Kevin Pillar is back.
Who are their 9 starters? Kevin Pillar, I mean, he's a Yankee killer.
Yeah, he's got a 981 OPS.
That's got to be trade bait, no? Like, he's got to get traded at some point.
Nolan Shanuel, he must be a prospect. He's back. He's a first baseman. Luis Rengifo, Taylor Ward, Kevin Pillar, Joe Adell, Mickey Moniak, Zach Nito, Thais is their catcher. Guillaume is their third baseman. Um, yeah, Logan O'Hoppy's on that team. That's the catcher he's from Long Island, I think.
He's
He's
from
having
Long Island.
he's having a pretty good season.
Okay.
And but yeah, it's just a lot of nothing. I mean, Kevin Pillar is literally batting cleanup. Taylor Wood is good. Luis Rengifo having a good season. That's the 2, 3, 4 in their lineup. But outside of that, it is pretty disappointing, I would
All right,
say.
let's keep our eye out for some trade targets. If the Yankees need some depth at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Luis Rengifo is definitely he's a switch hitter. Plays second and third base. He's got an 878 OPS right now. Could play all over if they need some infield depth.
All right.
That's the pre-scouting report. Check him out.
The pitching matchups are Nestor Cortez versus Griffin Channing, who's got a 5.05 ERA. Luis Heel versus Tyler Anderson. Anderson is got a 2.52 ERA, so he's been pretty effective. And then Rodon versus Patrick Sandoval, who's also got a 5.60 ERA. Like we said, should be scoring some runs. A couple of other news items that we did not touch on. So we mentioned John Birdie. Like I said, Boone said he's going to be out a while. This is the second IL stint for him this season. Then Nick Birdie also placed on the 10-day IL with hip inflammation. Does it seem like the Birdies are just on the IL at the same time for some reason? Like this happened last time?
Mm-hmm.
Ian Hamilton's going to be back on Tuesday from the COVID IL. Cole threw 20 pitches in a live batting practice session at the Yankees facility in Tampa. That was on May 25th. I guess it was a simulation of 2 innings. Everything went well. Clocked out at 96 miles an hour. And he said he's pain-free and would not rule out a June return. He's obviously not even eligible to come back until June because the 60-day IL, I think, runs out like this week at some point. But he's got to go through how many like legitimate rehab starts you think they get him?
Well, so I think that you probably go 3, 4, 5. I think that a typical spring training is about 6. So not saying that they're going to do 6 because I don't think they're going to do 6, but I think you go probably about 4, and then he's probably coming up when he's about at 75 pitches, 80 pitches. I think that's probably what they would do. They'd say, why are we going to let you throw, another 2 starts?
Why waste 80 pitches in AAA? Yeah. But you made a good point before we started recording. What's more valuable to Yankees winning games right now? Gerrit Cole throwing 65 pitches in a game, or one of your starting pitchers who've all been so effective just pitching?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do think though that if it was dire and they needed him more, I think that they would rush him a little bit more and say, all right, now you could throw 65 pitches today, like go give us 65 because the other options are bad. But I don't think that I think they let him get to about, I think that his last rehab start, they got him to 75, 80. And they say, they let him pitch 5 innings. They kind of are extra careful with him in his first couple starts back, which I think they said he's going to do one more, live batting practice. And then they're going to talk about a rehab assignment. So you're talking, he could begin a rehab assignment, I would say, in probably about 10 days.
And then he's going to need 4 starts, which is roughly
20
weeks.
Which is about, it's about 3 weeks. So I think you're talking, June. Let's see.
Who they playing 4th of July week? Is he going to come back on America's birthday? 4th of July?
4th of July, they play Cincinnati at home. But on July 5th, they start a series at the stadium against the Red Sox.
That's not the first time they play Boston this year, is it? Do they play Boston?
No, they go up to Fenway in June 14th.
So, yeah, they haven't played Boston yet. So, they're going to be...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a world... Like, they have a homestand from June 18th to the 23rd, and then they go on the road. They go to Citi Field, which is, I guess, the road, and then Toronto. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's a world where that Cincinnati series, like, that's a good, like... easy landing place at the very beginning of July.
The other interesting thing will be when they bring him back in that start, if they automatically say, okay, well, let's get 4 innings out of him, and then we're going to go to the guy who's moving to the bullpen on that day, right?
Yeah, piggyback him. They could definitely do that too. I think that's actually, that's going to be my bet. I think he's going to come back sometime in that Cincinnati series. That would line him up to pitch in Tampa, which isn't great. And then they have the All-Star break, so they could give him some extra days. They could give him 2 starts, and then they could kind of... That feels like very Yankee.
you can also then, because the rotation is going to be kind of fluid at that point anyway, with all the days off and everything, you're really not making a decision until after the All-Star break.
Right. You'd be able to, you got 4 days off in there at the All-Star break. I mean, there's a world where they don't even bring him back for that Cincinnati series, and they bring him back one start before the All-Star break so that they could give him extra rest before the second. Like, that's the stuff that they typically do, I would say. So
Luis Hill, though, has like kind of earned an All-Star bid at this point.
Yeah, they all have.
No, I know, but like, you're not going to have a guy who's an All-Star then pulled from the rotation after the All-Star break.
Yeah. I don't know. It depends. It's really going to be interesting what they do, and it obviously is all going to depend on how this next month goes. Which they got some. They play a lot of good teams this month. They start. They start in San Francisco. They play the Dodgers. They play the Orioles. They play the Braves. They play 4 against Toronto in Toronto. They do have the Red Sox in there in Fenway. That's always tough. Like, not easy.
All right, and the last thing to touch on is Dominguez. We already mentioned, but he was moved up to Double-A. We were just comparing, like, how's Verdugo doing his last 15 games? He's hitting 286, 288. So, wait, 286, 288. So, one walk? One walk, I was going to say. Okay. 770 OPS. I guess, yeah. You're not... It's going to still be a spot where I think Dominguez... They're not going to call Dominguez up to play twice a week, so... Unless there's an injury.
He hasn't played the field yet. He's still DHing. So,
and there'll be a couple weeks of that. Yeah.
They're going to option him. They're going to let him play the field. You're talking at least another month, at least, before they'd want to bring him back.
All right. That's going to wrap up this show. Again, send in your mailbag questions for the Anaheim wrap-up episode. We'll be doing that probably Friday morning, since I think that's a late-night game on Thursday. info@bronxpinstripes.com. And also a reminder that on Wednesday, I'm going to be talking to Andy Martino about his new book, so check out that episode posted at some point Wednesday afternoon. We'll talk to you guys then.